China.
This meeting is being recorded.
Give me a minute. No, we have to connect the laptop. Give me a minute. Hey, Shashank, is my screen visible?
Not yet. I've enabled sharing. Yeah.
I think I have to share this screen.
Yes, you can share the screen. It's not yet shared. Yes.
Yes, now.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, we are having a session on release management today. So, what is release management? So, very frequently we are doing releases for products, for software, and mostly the teams what get involved in the release management process is either the QA team, support team, and dev team. So, wanted the other teams also within the organization to get briefed about what is release management, what happens during the release management, why is it critical. So let's just have a look at the what on a high level, what is the definition of release management. So release management refers to the process of planning, designing, scheduling, testing, deploying, and controlling software releases. So it ensures that the release team efficiently delivers the application and upgrades required by the business while maintaining the integrity of the existing production environment. So when we are doing, I mean, the last line what it refers, maintaining the integrity of the existing production environment. Whenever we are doing a release, we don't want that the existing customers who are already using the software, they do not get impacted. So there is a seamless upgrade. So we do an upgrade of the software also. And while teams are already using the software in the current production, they don't get impacted. This is one of the functions also. As a release, when you are doing a release, it should be maintained. Shashank, am I audible? Shashank?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, fine. So releases can come in different forms. So release can be, suppose if it's a hardware upgrade, a release can be as a physical product in a box, as a download from a website or server. So in our product, we have our ZTA agent and the ZTNA component. So which we actually download to do an upgrade, or as a push to a device from a mobile app store. So whether even it's upgrade to Authenticator app or the mobile OT ready client or the iOS agent. So it is a upgrade or a push from the mobile app store, or a seamless update to the web application. So our console also, when we are doing an upgrade, so it's supposed to be a seamless upgrade of the web application. So done effectively, release management increases the number of successful releases by an organization and reduces quality problems. So productivity, communication, and coordination are improved, and the organization can deliver faster while decreasing risk. So for a release to happen seamlessly and without much friction, so there has to be proper communication, coordination between multiple teams. So the release management, what happens in our product is not that complex, because our product is not so vast, or we don't have so many subsystems. So to just highlight how critical release management is, I will just give reference to one of the e-commerce website, just give a sample example of a requirement, what they want to implement, and how complex it will be to plan that release. Let me just scroll to a couple of slides down. Okay, so here I'm just giving a sample requirement, a business requirement, what needs to be implemented in an e-commerce website. So an e-commerce website wants to launch a new feature in their loyalty program, wherein it wants to have a release a feature wherein users who have already done a shopping of say rupees 10,000 in the current year, when they try to do a next purchase, they will be prompted to select out of, they will be prompted for 10 different gift items, and they can select one of the gift item which they will get it for free if they have done a shopping of more than 10,000 in that particular year. Now for this feature to be implemented in a e-commerce website, so which all subsystems in that e-commerce website will get impacted, and where all changes needs to be done. So first is your customer data management platform. So your customer data management platform in an e-commerce website is where all your customer data is maintained. Now that customer master data management platform will need to add a flag for each of the customers, whether they have done a shopping of more than 10,000 in a year or not. So your customer, I mean, I've just written it briefly, but the customer master data management system will not have that data. It will in turn have to get that data from the sales team, or I mean the order management system, for those individuals who have done a shopping of more than 10,000 in a year. So the second is, every e-commerce system has an offer management system also, which is a different subsystem, which gives inputs of various kinds of offers, what the organization wants or the website wants to give. So it might be offers like with buy one, get one free, or with gift with purchase. If you're purchasing a simple purchasing one item, you can have a gift also along with that item. So there's a dedicated offer system also within e-commerce websites, where offer details are stored. The third change will be a change in the website and the mobile apps. I mean, the e-commerce applications are available over desktops, or available over mobile apps. Mobile apps will be Android apps, will be iOS apps. So there will be dedicated development teams, separate development teams for webs, who maintain the website, who maintain the Android app, who maintain the iOS app. Then there will be changes in the inventory management system also, so that whenever there is a order placed, the inventory details also get updated. So when we want to take such a feature to production, so there has to be changes in each of the subsystems within the e-commerce platform. And when you go to production, you have to ensure that the changes in each of these components are ready. So you cannot like make changes in your website and go ready. So you will have to make changes in the customer master data management platform, in the offer system, in the inventory management system. Only when the changes are ready in each of the platforms, then only you can do your release, coordinating that all the subsystems go to production together. We will now just see what are the things or steps what happens during a release during the release management process. Okay, so the number one, if you see here, the first one will be, so you get a request for a change as I was showing you a business requirement. So similarly, you will get a request or a change or a new feature what needs to be delivered. So once we get a new feature, then we'll have to do a planning of that feature what needs to be delivered. So you will have design included in it. What is the timelines each of the system or subsystems will take to finish each of the activities? Because when your a request for a change comes and you want to put it to production, you need to have a specific timelines or deadlines by which you want to put it in production. So I mean, you cannot have like to develop this feature until you put a date to it. So you will not be able to deliver it in a specific timeline. So when you have a request for a change, you need to plan it out and put a date or timeline when you can put it into production. So during the planning is the second step, planning and design phase. So each of the system or subsystems which will get impacted, they will have to discuss and give a high level timelines when their changes will be ready. So once you have the timelines and the design ready, then we go for a software build process. So build process is basically your development, review, then there will be testing in number 5. Then once your testing is over, you will have to deploy the software in production. Once you deploy, after deployment, you will have to support whatever changes you have, new changes you have made. You'll have to support those new features. And after deployment, if you have some issues of production, then you will be collecting what issues we have after production deployment. And if some features are not working properly, probably you'll have to do a hot fix, or if they are manageable, or if there is some severe issues in the existing functionality after you go to production, maybe you'll have to do a rollback. So these are the high level steps what comes during a release management cycle. To just further give a context on the timelines or how this process goes, let me come to this slide wherein we have a project kickoff phase. So here the dates are mentioned in MM and DDU format. So say for you get a new requirement which needs to be released, and we are ready with the change what we want to put into as a new feature, so that's approved and we want to kick off a project. Say 1st of October is when we have a project kickoff. So once we have the project kickoff, the next phase is that we need to have all the requirements gathered. So your requirement gathering, depending upon how complex or easy the requirement is, it might take a week to do, or it might take 2 weeks to do. Say here it takes 7 days for the requirement gathering process. So once you have the requirements ready, then you need to prepare technical designs for those requirements. And the technical design, as mentioned, omni-channel, all the subsystems which are impacted, they will have to do the technical designs on their subsystems. So it say for 3 to 4 days is what it takes for them to do the technical design. Once the designs are ready, you start with your build and development and test process. So ideally here, like within InstaSafe, our each sprint goes for, like, we follow a sprint of dev cycle of 2 weeks followed by 2 weeks of QA and regression cycles. So it goes for a month. So goes for a month, say mid of October to mid of November, your development and QA cycle goes. So once you have your development and QA done, so now you know the build what you want to put to production. You don't want to make any further changes in the build. So this is the final build we want to put to production. All the features, whatever are required in for what we want to release, are there in the build. So we freeze the build. Once we freeze the build, so say here the 15th of October, we freeze the build. Then a regression is done on the product across omni-channel, like we do testing over Mac, over Linux, Ubuntu, over the different iOS devices, Android devices. So there are chances during the previous QA testing we may not have done or uncovered some of the all the features, or something might be missed. So do we do a release regression, wherein whatever build is supposed to go to production, it gets validated across different OS different web applications or different versions of the OS, different browser versions. So those all kinds of testing is done. So once that testing is done, so and there will be bugs, there might be bugs identified during that release regression phase. So those bugs, whatever is identified, they are if they are critical to be addressed, they are addressed during that phase. So once that is done, we have a release sign off, wherein QAT gives a sign off that okay, whatever features we want to deliver are there. Apart from that, the existing functionality of the product, nothing is broken, everything is working as expected. So once the release sign off is there, then we do a production release. So once production release is done, then there is a post release support. So as I was mentioning, after production deployment, we might have some issues or we may not have some issues. And if we have issues, whether those issues are immediately fixable within a day or two, whether the customers can keep on using the product with those minor issues. If they can, then we do hot fixes on the product. And if there is some issues which hampers the customers from using the product, then probably we might have to roll back. So if you see here, so just from a timeline perspective, we started in October 1st, and by the time we delivered the project, it is almost end of November. So for each of these steps, now when we are doing a planning and we define that we want to release this feature in end of November, so each of these steps within like requirement gathering, technical design, develop, release regression. So each of these phases have to honor their timelines. So if any of those assignments or tasks don't honor their timelines what's allocated to them, so your end objective of when you want to go to production will get obviously delayed. So it is very much important that each phase we finish it within the expected timelines. There will be delays, some unforeseen situations, and there will be delays, but we need to see that how we can accommodate them and have them delivered in the specified release date. So it's very much it's very much good to have as the practice of not shifting the release date, because once we have that habit of shifting the release date for a day or two, the day or two becomes weeks and weeks becomes months. So usually in very big organizations, so when the new year starts, so they already have a release calendar published for the whole of the year. Wherever there is the release calendar is published, and whichever programs or features the product team needs to want to have it delivered, so they will have to work how to fit into the release calendar. So usually it is not in bigger organizations, not that way, that only when you have the programs or features ready, then only you will publish the release calendar. The release calendar is always published for the entire year, and whichever programs, features the product team sees when they will be completed, they try to fit in within those releases. So during the final phases of the release, so there are some critical activities or tasks which needs to be done by the release management team. So some of the tasks what needs to be done by the release management team during because I think most of these activities are not known to the other teams, but some of these activities currently within InstaSafe, they are not carried out, and there is a constant endeavor to have that all these steps we carry out. So, so these are the steps what needs to have is done by the release management when we are planning for a release. So the first one is that we finalize the release candidate. That is the build what we want to put to production. So once we finalize the release candidate, we do a QA regression is done on the release build. So once the regression is completed, there might be minor bugs, major bugs, or critical bugs in the release build. So a collective decision is made, a review of those issues found during the release regression is done, and it is discussed whether we can still go ahead with those issues or we need to address it. If there is a decision that we need to address any of the issues before going to the release, then they get addressed, or the decision, a collective decision is made. Okay, the issues whatever have been identified cannot be critical to the customer, and we can still go ahead in the release. So that's what is done during the release readiness check, and simultaneously the release notes are prepared and reviewed. So one of the steps what we currently are not practicing or not maintaining is briefing the support team of what releases or what features are getting released in a particular release what you are making, because the support team are the ones, once we go post production, they are the ones who have to support those features. So the support team also need to know what all new features are getting released in the product in a particular release, so that if any issues comes from the customer, they should be also aware of that. Also, the marketing sales team also need to be briefed on the release, so that they can also effectively communicate to our existing customers and the new customers that, okay, these are the new features what are coming up in the product in the next month or have come up in the product in the current month. So once this briefing of the support team, sales team is done, then we have the production deployment. Post production, we have QA validations that after the deployment that everything is working fine. Then the communication of the release is, I think one of the steps what's not mentioned, I think I missed mentioning, is that taking approvals from the customer before we do a production deployment. So once a post validation is done post production, then the communication of the release is made to all the internal and external stakeholders that we have released a new version of the product. So the next couple of 3 items are specific to InstaSafe, wherein once we have gateway components, we have agents getting rolled out in a release. So these are some of the activities what get carried by the support team, but it has to be monitored either by operations or the release management team, that all these subsequent activities are taken care of. Because if these subsequent activities are not taken care of, like if there is a new gateway update or a new feature is been added to a gateway or the agent, so the end customer may not receive these features until they are delivered to them. Any queries or questions up till now? Shashank from the team over there.
Just let me open the mic. Anything anyone want to ask? Nothing from outside.
Was I audible all the time? I'm properly audible, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I think in the first slide, what we saw is one of the items what I was laying stress, that when you're doing a release, it should ensure that the release is done efficiently without hampering the existing customer experience. So whenever we are doing a release, that we should ensure that the existing customers who are using the product do not face any, there is no downtime. So we should ensure that whenever a release is being performed, there is no downtime. So to ensure how, so in products like us or where we have components on the cloud, where we have controllers and components over the cloud. So how do we ensure that when a deployment is done, we don't have any downtime? So usually how this process gets carried is, so most of the websites or web applications, they have their cloud components hosted in 2 different regions. So sometimes it's for DR activity, also disaster recovery activities, they have this setup, or sometimes to maintain business continuity also they have this setup, wherein in 2 different regions, when we mention 2 different regions, it's usually in AWS, maybe you have one in a setup in a US West region or in a East region. Your entire web deployment stack, you have it deployed in 2 different regions, and both of them are active, and you have a load balancer setup, and so that if any of the environments go down, you can have your accessibility of the applications from the other region. So this is something called active. So now when we are doing, so now when we want to do a deployment, So what is usually done so that the business continuity uh, is maintained and is no downtime for the customers. So when a deployment is tried to be done, so one of the regions we just disconnect so that it does not get accessible to the customers directly. So if you see one of the regions we have made passive is kept on standby, and the customers continue like our for ZTA we have the console or the agent or the ZTNA. So one of the regions is kept active and the other is kept on passive and standby. So whatever deployment, so this particular architecture currently we don't have in InstaSafe. So, but this is how in the industry wide how this is done, so that there is no downtime when a deployment is done. So you remove one of the regions from being directly customer facing. So on the right hand side, if you see there one of the regions will be passive or standby. So you do your deployment in this passive or standby uh, stack. Once you do your deployment, you do your internal testing also in this particular region with the passive standby. You have your UAT done of the business users, or you can have your if you have UAT teams from your customers also, you can also engage them to do a testing in this passive region where you have done the new deployment. So once you are sure that after the deployment everything works fine, then you can move your traffic back to the new region where you have done on the right hand side, wherever you have done the new deployment, you can have your traffic moved to the new deployment site and disconnect it from the left hand side where you have your old piece of code. So then you can do your, if everything looks fine, then you can do the deployment on the left hand side or the site which has your lower version of the code, have it upgraded, and you can have your active setup again for both the regions. So this is how industry-wide deployments are done to ensure there is no downtime when we are doing a deployment. Anything else? Yeah. I think that's pretty much Shashank and everyone from my end. Any questions, queries for anyone on the release management process?
Great, thank you. Any questions so far? Hmm?
No
Nothing,
questions from anyone?
nothing from our side. Any-
I think here Sudeep had a question for
Yeah.
Basically, I was thinking what we were discussing from the release management point of view. Like, we talked about having a calendar of releases which is published in the very beginning of the year. But if you look into typical agile schedule, nowadays people have moved more into agile and all. So generally they do work with PIs, product iterations kind of thing. They will take something for 3 months or it will be PI for 2 months. They will take short goals and then they will work on that. So in that case, is there a chance that the release calendar and the agile release calendar they may mismatch or something like that? Or in that case, the release calendar is designed with respect to the agile team's expectations or goals? How do we do that?
So usually the release calendar is published by the release team. So now since we are now in 2022 December. So 2022 December, the release team will publish usually all, since we are following, most of the places they are following Agile. So Agile you might have a sprint maximum of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Sprint of development QA of 2 weeks. So the release calendar is usually in most of the places is scheduled monthly wise for the next 12 months.
Okay.
So product team, depending upon when they are ready. So there are 12 releases planned for the upcoming year. So product team, depending upon whenever they are ready for their release, whether they're ready if they're ready with some of the product by mid of the Feb, they can have it pushed, the changes pushed to production by the end of the Feb release.
Okay.
So usually release calendar is most of the places is scheduled end of the month, each month for 12 months in a year.
Thank you.
So, Shashank, I think the question from Pradeep here was, since you have working in Agile and
Yeah.
if there is a product feature what study in the middle of the month, how do they get accommodated in the release calendar of the year?
Okay.
So most of the places wherever where we have a dedicated release team, so the release calendar gets published. We have a release planned for the end of each month for 12 months a year. The release calendar published. And depending upon whenever the product is ready with the product, they can accommodate their release. In the end of the month, is whatever is planned. So from anyone can tell from the team when in InstaSafe we had our because I predominantly focus on ZTA. So I think Sashank, I will check with you and the marketing team. I think Dev and QA team might know. If you or anyone from the sales team can tell when we had our last release.
I think that's a couple of months before, right? Not in October, September or something.
What was released in it?
No idea.
Okay, yeah. So this is what we want to actually bridge the gap in the release management process. Where we want to. It was a minor release where we did two releases, one in September 1st and one in September end for Deepak Fertilizers POC, which was done in. And both the releases were for always on feature only. So, and planned releases was awarded for the month of September because September is the regional month for doubling. So we just try to avoid any downtime during the release process. So September there were no planned releases. Our last planned release was in mid of August. That was August 17th. That was a major architecture change where we implemented REST SQS. So we had been using AWS SQSs and we introduced REST SQS for the gateways, agent, everything. But somehow that release didn't work out well. And the latest gateways or agents, whatever we had released, most of them we could not have it rolled out to all the customers. So our upcoming release is getting planned, wherein focus is basically in the ZPA to have all the network component, all issues addressed. So that is in the final stages. I can see Venkat sitting there, so he's shrugging his shoulders up. So, and last Sunday we had a release for ISA. So, and that release also didn't get go very smooth. So, anyone from the audience from there, if they can, at least if they know one of the severity post-production issues, if they can tell from the audience here. ISA release, what you had Sunday, one of the severe post-production issues.
Anyone can tell. Okay. It's supposed to have a post-production release, right?
Most of the folks are from ZPA there. So since it's ISA, we still want to probe if anyone is aware.
Tell what it is.
Was that the OTP issue?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So I think it makes, I think, Sudip, I think support. Yeah, yeah, I think. Yeah. So Shashank, for the, many of the customers, we have TOTP or OTP enabled, okay, as a 2FA. And after the ISA release, customers were not getting prompted for the OTP. They were able to log in with just their username and password without being prompted for the OTP or TOTP, which was a violation for the banking customers what we have.
Okay.
And it was immediately fixed in the next day, since it was a regulatory violation. And throughout the week, there has been here and there issues coming in after the ISA release what we have, and the June team has been fixing and validating those changes.
I think some issue was there with iFinance, might be.
Let me check. What was the issue? Did you have a post-production issue with iFinance, Shiva, after this release?
Because yesterday, so many.
What was the issue with iFinance? Are you aware? So our QA lead from ISA is telling he's not aware of any post-production issue with ISA. I mean, iFinance. But definitely we had with Crazy Bee, what I'm aware. Crazy Bee, we had an issue where new users were not getting added. Dhanlakshmi Bank and Max Life Insurance both reported the issue with the OTP not getting prompted. So I think here it makes sense for all the teams to be aware of. I think most of the team over there was focusing on ZTA. I think no one is much doing QA on ISA also. So otherwise, you guys should have also been aware. So another Shashank, what you folks, I think marketing and sales team should be doing is, I think daily 5-10 minutes. I think you should hop into the next room, sit down with those guys, Vishal, anyone, Vishal, Anshuman, or
I
Karthik.
think we should have what you said now. Once we should have a session. Okay, as you pointed out in the task list.
Yeah, so that
one
session has to be driven by release management or operations team to do that. But instead of waiting for formal meetings, I think you guys also, since we are a small team and we have the team sitting in the next room, keep on hopping to them, because getting unified gateways also ready, which has been a request from a long time. Even all customers have been requesting why we need individual gateways for TCP, VPN, and all. So that is again Venkat sitting there in the front who has been driving the development. So we are releasing it to production shortly, but there are some bugs here and there which need to be addressed for it to be customer ready. Yeah, I think if you just have some coffees together or just move into those dev guys rooms once in a while, you will also get information of a lot of things happening and the issues getting addressed.
No, definitely. This kind of session also makes ours that okay, which team is doing what. I think we should have more such sessions so that everybody understand what work other team is doing. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I think what I saw from the current session, I think the discussion what we had on the ISA and post-production issues or what you are going to I think that was the main information got shared in this session rather than the release management what we plan. So it's good to know that what all kind of issues post-production or pre-production, whatever we are having, gets discussed. Only I think one benefit what we have here is we are sitting here in an open floor, folks doing ZTA, ISA all together. So any discussion the person having on the next table, you can't avoid, you get to hear it. So that's how we come to know the issues, whatever are there in both the products. So yeah, and I think we should avoid keeping the doors closed. What I observed when I was in Bangalore was the doors are being closed. So let's keep the doors open so that we can overhear conversation. We come to know of things.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you all for your time. Any other questions or we'll wind up the session?
Any questions?
Vishal, any questions from you?
So, sir, is a release management lifecycle is similar to a software development lifecycle, or what it is? Like same kind of like we're doing?
Release management lifecycle usually comes to the end of the process of your software development lifecycle. So your software development lifecycle usually ends in the final phase where you do your testing or validation of the product. So once the testing or validation of the product is over, so in a software development life cycle, there is not much stress or relevance given how you take to the product to the production. So now, as I was mentioning in the example what I was giving for the e-commerce site, so each of the teams will finish their work. How do you coordinate and take changes from all the teams, from the customer management team, from the offers team, from the changes what are done in the Android or iOS app or on the application? How do you coordinate and take all of them to production together without causing any hassles to the customer, and you have the feature delivered in production? That is what the focus of this management is. And another main importance or the weightage of release management is adherence to the dates. They give importance that the release dates don't get postponed and the program or the feature which is planned gets delivered on the specified date. Right? Mostly they come into play once development or testing is completed by the individual team. They just collaborate, take things to production and make it seamless. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Meghraj is around. Meghraj, any questions?
Nothing, sir.
Okay. Fine, then I'll not take much time. We'll end the session now.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Shashank, I think if you can stop the recording and say something you want to discuss. Pradeep.
Just a second.
We'll discuss.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.